Tamara Becker has been an educator for over 25 years, working in both district and virtual schools as a teacher, administrator, special education director, assistant superintendent, and most recently as the superintendent of Primavera, Arizona's largest online school. In August 2021, she launched the Adamo Microschool with 12 students in kindergarten through 7th grade in Fountain Hills, Arizona. And today that microschool has about 15 kids. And then earlier this year, August of 2022, Tamara opened up a second microschool location for Adamo in Queen Creek that has 17 kids with ongoing parental interest. She also plans to open additional Adamo microschools in the coming months. Adamo uses a blend of hands-on project-based learning as well as digital learning platforms. And Tamara works hard to create a family-centered learning environment that prioritizes parents and customizes learning to each student's distinct needs. Tamara Becker, welcome to the LiberatED podcast.
Thank you so much, Carrie. I'm so excited to be here today.
I'm so excited to have you here. I am a big fan of yours. I love what you're doing with Adamo and had a chance to draft an article about you and Adamo in my Forbes column back in 2021 when you opened your first location. So I'm thrilled to reconnect with you as you continue to scale Adamo. And when we talk about scale in the microschool world, we mean scaling small. So opening up additional small learning spaces as opposed to scaling kind of vertically or getting to be a larger school, which I think is one of the special traits of microschools today. But you and I are going to do something a little bit different, and that is to take a virtual tour of your microschool, and we get to see the Queen Creek location today and see what's happening there. So let's go ahead and do that.
Great. I'm so excited for you guys to see it.
Well, I'm excited too. We have both viewers on YouTube and listeners on the podcast. So we'll sort of try to make this as narrative as possible and also encourage folks to visit the YouTube channel at LiberatED Podcast to see what's actually happening inside the walls here at Adamo Microschool.
So this is our kindergarten through 3rd grade space, and they are working on a roll and write activity today. So they are building different family words and working collaboratively together. And we always have our stuffed animals come and watch us learn. It's a very important feature of our day. Our stuffed animals come and watch us learn.
Oh, I love that. And it looks like the kids in that room were in separate tables, but working very collaboratively. Yes. Lots of conversation and discussion, a really kind of bright and colorful space and very home-like here at this Adamo location.
Okay. And these are our older students. They're working on math right now. And this is our teacher, Miss Mary. We really focus on making sure students understand math conceptually versus procedurally, and that's important for us. We want students to have a really solid understanding of math and the foundations behind it.
Great. And so this group of students is about 5 students in a separate room in, again, this home-like microschool with one educator working on math. And again, it looks like everyone's really engaged and it seems very personalized.
Yes. Yep. And so we have a few students who are absent today, but this is generally our learning space. So we have lots of different opportunities for learning and spots to go out. So
I love it. Yeah. So now we're back to the first room. And so I'm curious, before we get into kind of our larger discussion of your background and why you created these microschools, typical characteristic of microschools is this kind of mixed age learning environment, small groups of students. How does that work at your Adamo microschools? I mean, clearly for the academic work, it seems like they're separated roughly by age, although they're mixed classroom groups. Are there also those opportunities for all of the students, regardless of age, to also connect. I would imagine that's a part of this too.
Yep. Towards the end of every day, we get together with hands-on collaborative projects, working together. And then we also do throughout the week, we do buddy readings. So our older students come and read to our younger students. And we get every day starts with them together in the living room. We say the Pledge of Allegiance. We talk about our day. We talk about what they've done the night before. So they all know each other very well.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thanks for giving us this brief tour of your beautiful microschool space. So we're back in your office now, and thank you again for that tour. It was fun to be able to see what's happening in this space. And I want to go back to the spring of 2021, when you were still working at Primavera, running that program, but then you started to get this idea of wanting to do something more entrepreneurial. You had been in education for more than 25 years at the time and had that entrepreneurial itch. So maybe tell us what was happening then back in the spring of 2021 that made you want to do something different.
Oh, I just saw this opportunity for education to innovate itself, for us to do something different and put kids back at the focus of education. And so one day I'd seen the movement starting to build. I knew about microschools here in Arizona, and just wanted to be a part of something different, something that really helped to change the educational landscape for parents and students, because I think that was an important factor. Parents have been too removed from the educational setting. And, we have parents come in and do different projects and activities with our kids here. So I wanted them to be part of the learning process as well.
And what was it about microschools in particular that appealed to you? I mean, this was sort of, obviously microschools had been gaining popularity pre-2020. There were some popular microschool networks, but they've really exploded in terms of population and quantity, popularity and quantity over the past couple of years. And you were very much a part of that wave. So what was it about microschools in particular that appealed to you?
I think it's the ability to really customize and personalize the learning experience for students. This last year, we were able to evidence 69% growth in English with our students, and 68% growth in English and 69% growth in math. And being able to really know where the students are and develop programs and learning opportunities that target not only their strengths but their weaknesses really help them grow significantly. And so I think that was why the micro school was so appealing to me, because it was about really finding out how we can help students thrive in a learning environment.
Yeah, and I imagine as someone who has worked in larger school districts and then certainly in the largest online provider in Arizona, you saw large scale educational environments and maybe wanted to see the difference in the small environment. And of course, have now seen tremendous academic growth given that kind of small setting and real focus on personalized learning.
Yeah, it's not just the academic growth, the social growth too. We've seen students who have had severe anxiety really flourish in this environment. They become more comfortable with their peers, and then they're able to feel more connected to the space as well. So it's academic and social growth has been just astounding this year to see.
And so you had the benefit of, again, this background in education and working in Arizona, which is a kind of a beacon for educational choice and opportunity. And then you also had this understanding of Arizona's robust charter network. And I think all of that combined may have enabled you to have the enviable position of going from idea to launch with a microschool in a kind of record time, really. I mean, it went from the spring of 2021 to opening in August. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about that launch process and how that worked so efficiently for you.
Well, yeah, and like you said, Arizona is unique in what we're able to offer with school choice options. And You know, the willingness of EdKey Sequoia Charter Schools to partner with micro school operators and entrepreneurs was really the factor that allowed for such quick implementation of the micro school program here. And you know, because we partner with that free public charter, a lot of the systems were already in place. So unlike some private micro school entrepreneurs who have to look at how do we do enrollment, how do we, you know, factor in, you know, some of the systems, I was able to just, because I had been with EdKey for years, I knew their systems, I was able to just make the connection, commit to the agreement and the partnership with EdKey, and then be able to move forward with marketing and brand awareness and getting the word out there. So like you said, it was a really quick turnaround, but it was the openness and willingness of, you know, EdKey in wanting to provide more school choice options in the state.
Yeah, and you opened with that interest. All of a sudden, a dozen students in that first year in your first location in Fountain Hills, and of course, going on to now open your second location where you're at today. And I wonder about that process. So are your students, because of the affiliation with EdKey and Sequoia, are they technically considered public charter school students? Are they all attending tuition free as a result of that? I guess what are sort of the dynamics there?
Yeah, and that is what makes us a little bit different as well. They are all fully enrolled in Sequoia Choice Arizona Distance Learning, which is their online school. But we are the education service provider or subcontractor, so to speak. We're held to all state and federal guidelines, and we're held to all charter requirements as well. So for example, this year, the State Board for Charter Schools will be coming here because it's part of the 6-year annual review that AZDL is going through. So I'm required to do all the same things. We do state and district benchmark tests and report out on move on when reading scores and all of that. So it definitely looks different than a large number of the micro schools out there that are privately run.
But I think that's right. It looks a little bit different, but also quite the same in terms of these small learning environments. It's just that in some ways, partnering with those charter schools, not only in this case, where it was able to get you up and running quickly, but also providing that tuition-free access for families so that you're able to bring this model to more families. And we're seeing other charter school networks, virtual charter school networks do similar things. I think of, for example, ASU Prep Digital, Arizona State University Prep Digital opening some on-site microschools affiliated with their charter. I think of Great Hearts Microschools, a classical charter school model, and their push toward microschools as well. So we're seeing this trend, and I think it's part of this larger ecosystem of options for families where not only are they able to choose sort of different educational philosophies and approaches, but they're also able to sort of decide who they want to be affiliated with. Do they want this to be kind of a private, independent microschool? Do they like the idea of being a part of a national microschool network, a private microschool network such as Acton Academy or Prenda, for example? Or do you want an affiliation with one of these virtual schools like you have with Adamo? Yeah. So maybe tell us a little bit more about what is happening in Arizona. I mean, Arizona earlier this year, or I guess last year now in 2022, passed the country's first universal education savings account program that enables all K-12 students in the state of Arizona to have access to educational funding to use as they choose. Of course, Arizona has long been a leader in these education options, including the virtual schools that you've been a part of. What is it like there at this moment, and how does it feel to be a part of it?
Well, I think it's really exciting because it does give parents and students the choice. And so I've been really energized to see the opportunities that have come from this. And then just being able to develop instructional programs across the state to really target in on students and develop what it is they need to be successful. So I'm really excited to be a part of the school choice movement, and I love being here in Arizona. So
That's great. And, I know in addition to providing opportunities for students, for families to really find the right educational fit for them, the growth and continued interest in different kinds of educational models is also helping educators like you, people
Yeah.
who may be in the classroom who are looking for a change, or administrators who want to do something different. And I know when we spoke for the Forbes article back in 2021, and I'll put a link to that article in the show notes, you used the term re-energized. You said that when you went off on this entrepreneurial adventure, you felt re-energized. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about more about that experience.
Well, being an administrator is great. You have impact over so many students, parents, teachers, but being back in an environment where you're centered on the kids, you're watching them grow, you're watching them develop. It recenters you, as I said. It re-energizes you. It brings you back to why you got into teaching and what the passion that you have for kids and for learning, really where it comes from. And so it's exciting. It's exciting to watch. We have a third grade student who really struggled academically, to watch the growth and the development and see just how you can just make such a significant change in somebody's life. And so that's where I get re-energized is just watching all of this happen and unfold on a daily basis.
Yeah, and you have a real diversity of students in your program. I know that when we spoke in 2021, you had students that were on the autism spectrum as well as neurotypical students. You really do make this kind of personalized education option available to every type of student. I wonder if that's part of your mission or how that came to be as well.
It wasn't necessarily part of the mission. It just kind of ended up being that way. However, we have students who struggle with dyslexia, learning side by side with students who are accelerated readers. And, we all learn here in our learning environments to support one another. And that type of support helps students grow academically and socially. And so we still are very diverse in our makeup. And I think that lends itself well to, enhanced opportunities for student success.
Right. That kind of diversity of the classroom experience is really special for all the students involved. And, I mentioned earlier that microschools today, many of them, including Adamo, are interested in scaling, but scaling laterally, horizontally instead of vertically. You don't want to become a large school. You want to open up several small schools because that is what really does, benefit the students and the educators in your programs. How do you make decisions around where and when to grow laterally?
I think it's really about the community and the interest. As we see more interest develop in a specific location, then we work to mobilize in that spot. We work to find a space, a teacher, and then develop that interest list and really get it going. We're able to do that at any point in time of the year. So, as I continue to have conversations with parents looking for alternate options for their students, then we take that leap.
And so what are some of your goals going forward? I mean, I guess, where do you see Adamo, 5 years from now? I know you're busy running these two locations at the moment, so it may be hard to kind of think big picture down the road, but where do you see Adamo Microschools in the next 5 years? And then where do you see microschools more generally in the state of Arizona and elsewhere, being a part of this larger landscape of education options?
Yeah, I would like to see growth in Adamo. I don't know that I want to get any bigger than like 7 to 10 locations, because I want it to remain that small, intimate type of setting where I'm able to be involved with all the students and families. So keeping it small would be my ideal. And then as far as micro schools go, I truly think that they are the wave of educational opportunities. My parents speak so highly about what their students are getting here that every parent wants to have that for their child, that every parent wants to have a learning environment where their student is successful, they feel safe, they feel encouraged and loved and supported. And so I think micro schools provide that opportunity, and I think we're here to stay.
And so how do you see microschools impacting the traditional public school system? You know, you've been working in the charter school sector, and they've been very, very responsive to this microschool movement, adapting relatively quickly. Of course, they're still publicly funded, privately run, tuition free for families. What about district schools or traditional public schools? How do you see them, or do you see them being influenced by the microschool movement?
I do. And I can't remember who told me, but I had heard that, and don't quote me on this. I believe Mesa Public Schools has started a micro school program in one of their schools, where somebody had told me that they had like 4 classrooms that they opened up, and they have, I believe it was 4 classrooms, and they had 4 teachers, and they had about 100 students in this micro school environment. I think districts should look at this. There is so much power in students across grade levels learning side by side. And I think we see that every single day here. Districts and other charters should look at this, because we're able to do so much more in such a short period of time. Our kids are only here 3 hours a day. They go home and they have anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours based on grade level of at-home learning to do. But we're able to do so much more with them because of the exposure that they have to students across grade level bands. And so this multi-age approach is really, I think, it's been done before. Multi-age classrooms are not new, but we're able to see the benefit and the pro of it, and micro schools can really help move that forward.
Right. What's old is new again. This
Exactly.
one room schoolhouse. Yes.
But it's done differently too.
Right. Right.
And which is making, I think, it launch even more across the country now.
Right. And that's in many ways facilitated by all these personalized learning tools, digital tools, but really bringing the best of technology with that in-person, small, nurturing, a highly individualized educational setting. And so, you have, again, the privilege of being in Arizona, which really is doing such innovative things in education. You're able to open these micro schools in these beautiful kind of residential spaces, these home-like environments. This is something that, other states, I think, and other entrepreneurs in other states are really interested in, but often encounter kind of regulatory barriers that prevent micro schools from operating out of private homes or in residential spaces. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about what is happening for you in Arizona that makes it easier for you there to run these kinds of programs.
Well, I think it's just the guidance that we've received. In my personal situation, I've been able to do this because I know the regulations. I know what districts or charter schools have to go through. I have a binder here that has my teacher resumes, and parents can come and look at that. I let my parents know their safety and security. My husband, who is in the home at certain times, has a fingerprint clearance card. We set a separate lock on the doors for parents during school hours so that they can come anytime. I'm lucky I don't have to go through some of those hoops, but I've let my parents know that this is a safe learning space for the kids, and they trust me. And so they've come here, they've seen it, and there's that trust there. So that's, I think, what helps parents make the decision to do this. We also have any volunteers or any parents that come on a regular basis have fingerprint clearance cards, but then I cover general liability and personal and professional liability insurance as well. So I still try to keep up and make sure that we are, following all those regulations and creating a positive learning space.
Yeah. And I think, again, what some of these microschool founders across the country end up running into is because microschools are so new and unknown, of course, certainly known to us, but unknown to many, that local and state, regulators might not know what to do with them. And a lot of microschool founders across the country, particularly those like you that are operating in residential spaces, end up getting caught up in early childhood licensing. So they're licensed as like a daycare facility with their educators having to, learn how to change diapers as part of the training and certification process, even though they're dealing with 12-year-olds. And it seems to me that microschools in Arizona and in some other states are not getting caught up in that to some degree. But like you're saying, you could still voluntarily choose to follow as many safety protocols as you'd like. But is that an issue for you there, or how are you regulated, I suppose?
It is not an issue for us here at this point in time, and hopefully not moving forward either. Because I know other micro school operators, I think we've talked to some, you and I have talked to some in the past about just the challenges that they have faced in trying to get up and running, and the barriers that get in their way, then that takes away from the kids, which is the saddest part.
Yeah, all of that energy that goes into, kind of jumping through these regulatory hoops, like, again, trying to comply with early childhood licensing that's really irrelevant in many cases for school age students. Some entrepreneurs won't even go into certain states because they don't want to deal with those regulatory hurdles. So again, just I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see what you're doing in Arizona and how you're really able to expand options for families there, especially with Adamo. And, I wonder what you think of sort of the future of American education more generally. We talked about microschools being a real big part of that, but, where do you see education going from kind of where it's been to the future?
Well, I think that we have a real opportunity to look at some of the things that are happening in not just the country, but in business, and saying, how can we apply this to education at this point in time? And, let's take the micro school movement, because that's obviously what I'm well versed in. But why aren't we looking at micro school movements in higher education just as well as in high school? I'm not yet brave enough to touch high school just at this point, but what are the opportunities for education, and how can we really put the focus back on students and make it about them? And I think that's what I would challenge all of us in the education field to do, is think about how we put kids back at the center of it.
I love that, right? Centering learning around the individual child, and then also making that paradigm shift from the way it's always been done to, being creative and thinking about new ways. And so, Tamara, if you have advice for other teachers, administrators who are thinking about making the leap into entrepreneurship and opening a microschool or some other learning model, what would you say to them?
I would say, do it. Don't hesitate. There are so many groups out there that are here to support you today, and even more so than 2 years ago when I started. There are different organizations out there that will lend a hand, will give you the feedback and the advice, will help you develop your plan. You're not alone. You're not a silo in this landscape anymore. And so jump in 2 feet and then, enjoy the experience.
And where can my listeners and viewers find out more about Adamo and connect with your work?
On our website at www.adamoeducation.org.
Tamara Becker, thank you again for being on the LiberatED podcast.
Thank you so much, Carrie. I love spending time with you.